Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Respected brothers and sisters, welcome to our weekly class on the explanation of Kitab al-Tawhid, alladhi huwa haqqullahi al-abid, li Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab ibn Sulaiman al-Tamimi rahimahullahu ta'ala rahmatan wasi'ah. So alhamdulillah, we are resuming our classes after quite a lengthy break. I think it was about 6-7 weeks, Allah al-Musta'an. So alhamdulillah, inshallah, the lessons should be back to normal now every week. Bi-idhnillahi jalla wa ala. And I hope you are all well, in good health and iman, insha'Allah. Naam. Barakallahu feekum. Tayyib. So the last thing in Kitab al-Tawhid, we had reached chapter 8. Chapter 8, which is Babu ma ja'a fi ruqa wa tama'im. Chapter regarding what has been related about ruqa, incantations, and tama'im, amulets and talismans. So this chapter is about ruqa and tama'im, and we have taken most of it, and whatever is left we shall finish it today bi-idhnillahi jalla wa ala. So what I'm going to do, just to remind myself and you, is I'm just going to quickly read the text that we have taken. Just going to quickly read the text, the speech of Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad Abdul Wahhab up to the point where we stop, and then we will continue from there. So obviously we're not going to go over any explanation, because explanations can be found in the previous 2 recordings, which were both about this chapter. So we explained everything in detail, in great detail actually. Walhamdulillah. So the author rahimahullah, he says, Babu ma ja'a fi ruqa wa tama'im fi sahih, in as-sahih. Here, in fact, what the author rahimahullah means here is in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. An Abi Bashir al-Ansari radiyallahu an, the Abu Bashir al-Ansari radiyallahu an, he was with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam fi ba'di asfarihi, on some of his travels. He was with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam on some of his travels. فَأَرْسَلَ رَسُولًا, so the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam sent a messenger, a warner, a da'i, a caller, saying what? أَلَّا يَبْقَيَنَّ فِي رَقَبَةِ بَعِيرٍ قِلَادَةٌ مِّنْ وَتَرٍ أَوْ قِلَادَةٌ إِلَّا قُطِعَتْ, that there shall not remain in the neck of any camel a necklace made of bowstring, or any necklace, except that it should be cut off, or except that it should be cut. And alhamdulillah, we have spoken about this in great detail. And then the next hadith the author mentions in this chapter, one Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu qala sami'tu Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam yaqul inna ruqa wa tama'ima wa tiwalata shirk, rawahu Ahmad wa Abu Dawud. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, he said, I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam say, indeed a ruqa, which is jam of ruqyah, yani incantations, what tama'im, amulets, what tiwala you can say is love magic, love spells, love charms. We're going to come to that inshallah. What tiwalata shirk, that all these things are shirk. Rawahu Ahmad, Abu Dawud, narrated by Ahmad and Abu Dawud, and we explained each of these 3 things. We explained what they mean and how they are shirk, and how that ruqya can sometimes be shirk. Ruqya has 2 types. That which is allowed, that is impermissible, and that which is impermissible can sometimes be shirk akbar and shirk asghar. We have spoken about that. And also tama'im, amulets. We mentioned that in the previous chapter, which was all about tama'im, amulets. We mentioned that it is a consensus of the Salaf that all tama'im are haram, impermissible, and they are either shirk akbar or shirk asghar, and we have explained that before in detail. And also what we are going to look at now. Okay, that's fine. What tiwala, which I've just mentioned to you, love magic or love charms, love spells, all of this is shirk, and we've explained that. Then the next narration, the author mentions one Abdullah ibn Uqaym marfu'a. Abdullah ibn Uqaym, there's a difference of opinion amongst the scholars whether or not he is a Sahabi or he is from the Mukhadrameen. Mukhadrameen. Sahabi, obviously, you know, is a companion, yeah? Someone who met the Prophet while believing in him and then he died upon Iman. Now, Mukhadram is a level, Mukhadrameen, or someone who is a Mukhadram, is someone who's between a Sahabi and a Tabi'i. And they are those who were present at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. They believed in him, but they did not meet him. They did not see him and they did not meet him. So the correct opinion, or the majority opinion, seems to be that Abdullah ibn Uqaym radiyallahu anhu wa rahimahu, he is from the Mukhadrameen. However, some scholars do hold the opinion that he's from the Sahaba. Anyhow, when Abdullah ibn Uqaym radiyallahu anhu rahimahu marfu'a, linking it back to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, man ta'allaka shay'an wukila ilayhi, rawahu Ahmad wa Tirmidhi. Whosoever attaches something, or wears something, or hangs something, wukila ilayhi, he is entrusted to that thing. And that's narrated by Ahmad al-Tirmidhi. And again, we explained this hadith in the previous lesson, so there's no need to explain again. Then the author, rahimahullah, he goes on to explain at-tama'im. He now gives you a definition of tama'im, ruqa and tiwala. So we're going to quickly read these definitions. Some of these things we have discussed in detail before, so we're not going to repeat them. Other things that we haven't discussed, then inshallah we are going to discuss them now. Bi-idhnillah. So he, rahimahullah, he says at-tama'im. As for tama'im, amulets, shay'un yu'allaqu ala al-awladi anil ayn. That is something that is hung on the children to protect them from the evil eye. And this is what is predominant. This is what is predominant, in the sense that, yes, a lot of the times children are made to wear amulets, and a lot of the times it is for protection against the evil eye. However, it's not only restricted to that, as you know, we've seen it, it's the waqi', the reality. We've seen the adults wear it. Also, as in the first hadith of Abu Bashir al-Ansari radiyallahu anhu, the Messenger of Allah sent a messenger, a warner, to say that nothing should be left, no necklace, nothing should be left in the neck of the camels except that it should be cut. So also animals, these things were placed on animals. Yes, and we know tama'im are different things, dear brothers and sisters. Yes, we've discussed this before. Tamimas, that's something you can wear, something you can hang on a wall, something you can put on the door of a house, something you can put in your car, whatever it is, yes? Something you wear any part of your body. These are all tama'im, and they can be for different reasons, not only for the ayn, or for different reasons. So tamima in general is anything that is worn or placed somewhere with the intention of preventing harm from occurring or removing harm once it has occurred. That's a tamima. Now, however, the author here, rahimahullah, he's mentioned what happens most of the time. That most of the time is hung on children and for the reason of protecting from evil eye. However, as I've just explained, it's not only restricted to that. Now, then, yani, then he, rahimahullah, now he says, so he talks about these tama'im which are placed upon children to protect them against the evil eye. Now, And we have mentioned that this can be shirk akbar or shirk asghar, and how it can be shirk akbar, how it can be shirk asghar. Now, after this, now he is going to mention tama'im, amulets, in which there is a difference of opinion amongst the Salaf. So he says, لكن إذا كان من القرآن. However, if this amulet is from the Quran, فَرَخَّصَ فِيهِ بَعْدُهُمْ, then some of the Salaf have allowed it. وَبَعْدُهُمْ لَمْ يُرَخِّصْ فِيهِ, and others did not allow it. وَيَجْعَلُهُ مِنَ الْمَنْهِي عَنْهِ, and instead they did not allow it, and they said that this is something which is haram and forbidden. Minhum Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu an, and from them is Abdullah, the noble companion Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu an, who did not allow any kind of amulets. He did not allow any kind of amulets. So now we're going to talk a little bit, maybe about 10 minutes, about these amulets which are from the Quran and different opinions regarding these different types and what is the inshallah correct ruling. Okay. Now, so these are amulets that are worn here or wherever. Yes. Or perhaps put on the wall in your house, or placed on the mirror in your car, you know, the mirror that you look out at the back. Yes, some people hang things there, or put them in the glove compartment, or put it on the dashboard, or hang it in the house, on the door, or you wear it on your body or your animal, your children, whatever it might be. Okay, now. So these things are, these things are from the Quran. Now we're talking about that which is restricted to the Quran. It has ayat of the Quran. It might only have one ayah, like ayat al-Kursi. It might have the mu'awwidhatain, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. It might have the two ayat from the end of Surah Al-Baqarah. It might have Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun, Qul huwallahu ahad. It might even have the full mushaf. Nowadays they make tiny mushafs. Okay, Allah al-Musta'an. Just to put it inside some kind of any patch, a leather patch, or made out of cloth, or whatever it is, or made out of silver, or whatever, some kind of metal, and inside they put the whole Quran, or some kind of adhkar from the Quran, the Messenger ﷺ, or some kind of dua that the Prophet ﷺ taught us, anything of this nature. Anything of this nature. Okay, so this is what we are talking about now. We are not talking about amulets upon which there is agreement of the Salaf that they are haram, and that are all amulets other than these amulets. So we're not going to talk about them. We've dealt with them. Now we're talking about amulets which fit the description I've just mentioned. Now, the scholars in fact have three opinions on this. And I think we started talking about this last lesson, and I believe we mentioned the first opinion, but we will repeat it so that everything is connected. Okay, the first opinion is that wearing these kind of amulets or placing them somewhere is totally permissible at all times, whether it is before something bad happens to you, to stop something bad from happening to you, okay, or you use them after something bad has happened to you. Yani they don't make a difference. They say at all times, in all situations, these amulets are allowed. And this has been reported from the noble companion Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, And it has also been reported from some of the Salaf, like Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib and Ibn Sirin and Mujahid. These were big scholars from the Tabi'een. Now, although these things have been reported from them, or whether or not they are authentically and correctly ascribed to them, that's a whole different issue. And in fact, some of these Salaf who this opinion has been attributed to, it's not authentic. It's not the chain is not authentic. Okay, it has not been authentically reported from them, but it has been said that this was their opinion. Some of them, but some of them, yes, did hold that opinion. Some of them did hold that opinion. Okay. Also Ata ibn Abi Ata rahimahullah and Abu Ja'far al-Baqir rahimahullah, also Muhammad, the grandson of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu an, the son of the great grandson, sorry, or you can say the grandson of Al-Hussein, Muhammad ibn Ali ibn al-Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. Yeah. And Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he has mentioned this. He has mentioned that this is an opinion of some of the scholars of the past and some of the Salaf. Now, okay, what is their proof? They have two main proofs. The first one, as we know, Quran is a shifa, is a cure. The Quran is a cure. The Quran is a cure. Okay. Now, so they use that general meaning of the Quran. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنُنَزِّلُ, I mean, there's many ayat that show that Quran is shifa. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And we send down of the Quran that which is shifa, cure, and mercy for the believers. So they say that Quran is a shifa. So we will use it like this. We will use it in amulets. Now, so it can be used like this. This is the first evidence. Second evidence is the narration from Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. Remember I said the Sahabi who has this opinion, or who this opinion has been attributed to, is Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhuma. Now there is a narration from him. Now part of the narration is authentic, and the second half of it is not authentic. It is da'if. What is the authentic part? The authentic part is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught him a tremendous dua to say, if you get scared while you are sleeping, yeah, and you have a bad dream or nightmares or something, and you want to protect yourself from that, there is a dua you can say when you go to sleep. Now, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught him this dua. And what is this dua? أعوذ بكلمات الله التامة من غضبه وعقابه وشر عباده ومن همزات الشياطين وأن يحضرون. وأن يحضرون. وأن يحضرون. So, أعوذ بكلمات الله التامة, I seek refuge in the perfect words of Allah. From what? From his anger, from his punishment, from the evil of his servants, and from the whisperings and the sayings of the shayateen, the devils, and from them coming. And you seek refuge in the perfect words of Allah from the devils attending and coming. Now, okay. 5 things. So we should really learn this dua, and we should teach it to our families. And it's a dua, one of the adhkar or the dua you say when you go to sleep, and it's very easy. Yes, A'udhu bi kalimatillahi tamma min ghadabihi wa iqabihi wa sharri ibadihi wa min hamazati shayatini wa an yahdurun. Okay, so it's mustahab, of course, it's a sunnah, recommended to say this, yes, when you go to sleep. Now, yes, inshallah, we'll send the du'as, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. Okay, now, so the Prophet ﷺ taught Abdullah ibn Amr al-As this dua. Now, he taught it to his children. So obviously he had children that were mature, grown up, had reached the age of puberty, they could memorize, so he made them memorize this dua. As for his children that were still young, could not memorize it, they were still not baligh, what did he do for them? He wrote it for them on a piece of paper or something, maybe cloth or piece of paper, whatever, he wrote it on something and he hung it on them. And he hung it on these younger children. Okay? So they say that this is a clear-cut proof that if Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As anhuma, he is hanging something on his children, which is dhikr and dua, then of course Quran more so. Yes, if Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As is hanging on his children this dhikr and dua to protect from nightmares and bad dreams, then to attach the Quran and to hang the Quran, and of course there should be no problem at all. So these are the 2 proofs. Okay, now, however, the scholars have said that both of these they cannot use. Both of these they cannot use. Okay, why? Okay, the ayat that are mentioned in the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that the Quran is a shifa, is a cure. Who is the one who understood these ayat the best? They are general ayat. Who understood them the best? There is no doubt that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam understood these ayat the best, and he was the one who implemented them the best. And there is not one single authentic narration from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he either did this himself or allowed others to do it with his speech. And what I mean is allowed them to wear amulets with the Quran or ayat of the Quran. There is no authentic narration from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to show that he did this or he allowed others to do it, or he told others to do it. So this shows us that what you are doing with the Quran, putting them in amulets, is not what is intended. And you have misunderstood what is intended here. Okay, now going on to the narration of Abdullah ibn Amr al-As, then as I mentioned, that the first part of this narration is authentic, where the Prophet ﷺ taught him this dua. But then the second part, there's a problem with it, where Abdullah ibn Amr, he taught his elder children the dua to memorize it, and as for the younger ones, he made them wear it, or he hung it on them. Okay, there's a problem with that part. In the isnad, the chain of narrations, and in the matan, in the text itself. Okay. Now, as for the isnad, we're not going to go into great amount of detail with it, but you have to understand that when the ulama of hadith, they scrutinize the sanad of this narration, they found that for 2 or 3 reasons, this narration is weak. It is weak, da'if. That's the first thing. Then also, if you look at it, yeah, if you look at the matan, the text itself, is the text explicit in that Abdullah ibn Amr, he hung this dua on his children, the younger ones, to protect them from something bad. Is that explicitly mentioned in there? That he did it for that purpose? Why? Because some of the people knowledge, they said they have a different interpretation. They said that he did that to teach them the dua, so that when they are going to sleep, they look at it and they say it, but they haven't memorized it. And like this, when they do it every night, eventually they will memorize it. Okay, why? Look now, if it was for the intention of protecting them against something bad, then why did he not make his elder children wear it? Yes? If it was with the intention of protecting them, then this protection is for everyone. Let the elder children wear it as well. But because his elder children had memorized it, they didn't need to wear it, but they could say it. But the younger ones, they wore it because they had not memorized it, and he was teaching them, and they would say it before going to sleep, and they would not forget to say it, and eventually they would memorize it. Now, so now there's a possibility that this could have been the reason. So when there is ihtimal, when there's a text, hadith, or yeah, when there's a text and there is another interpretation to it, yes, then you cannot really use it as proof for your interpretation. Yes. Now your interpretation becomes weak now. Okay. This is the first opinion. The second opinion is, again, we are talking about amulets to the Quran, dhikr, dua, and so on and so forth, that you can wear them and hang them after something bad has happened, not before. After something bad has happened and not before. So this is restricted to after something bad has happened. To remove that, you can use these amulets. And this has been attributed to Aisha radiyallahu anha and some of the people of knowledge. And Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentions in his book Zadul Ma'ad, he mentions different narrations from Imam Ahmad which show that Al-Imam Ahmad used to incline to this opinion. Which opinion is that? So this has been attributed to Aisha radiyallahu anha, to Al-Imam Ahmad, and to some of the other Salaf and the scholars, that you can wear amulets from Quran, dhikr and dua after something bad has happened, whatever it is, and not before. Again, when you scrutinize the chain of narration going back to Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, you find that it is weak. You find that it is weak. So that's from one angle. The second angle is that the proofs that we have mentioned about the tama'im, that they are shirk and they are not allowed and they are haram, and the different narrations we've mentioned, they are general and they don't make a distinction between if something if you wear it before something happens or after something bad happens. Yes, the proofs that we have mentioned with tama'im, all tama'im are haram, not allowed, or shirk, then these proofs that we have mentioned, they do not make a distinction between the two states or the two conditions of wearing it before something bad happens or after something bad happens. So these narrations which are general refute this anyway from that angle. Okay, the third opinion is that all kinds of tama'im amulets are not allowed. And that includes these amulets which are from the Quran and dhikr and dua, whether they are worn before a calamity, before something bad happens, or after something bad happens. And this is reported from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Abbas, Uqba ibn Amir, Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, Imran ibn Hussein, and these are all from the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And likewise, it has been reported from a group of the Tabi'een, and from them Al-Hasan al-Basri, and also from them are the companions of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud like Al-Qamah and Al-Aswad and Al-Abida As-Salmani, and other than them from the people of knowledge. Okay, and we will see that this has also been reported from Ibrahim an-Nakha'i rahimahullah, another great Imam of the Salaf. So it has been mentioned by several of the Sahaba, several of the Tabi'een, several of the Salaf, and in fact this is the position of the majority of the scholars. Okay, sister, no problem, inshallah, that's fine. No, there's no proof for the second statement. I mean, the proofs are the same, that Quran is shifa. Now, but they're restricted to wearing it after something bad has happened and not before. And this opinion has been attributed to Aisha radiyallahu anha, but that chain of narration is weak. So this is not really the opinion of Aisha radiyallahu anha. It has not been authentically attributed to her. They say it's from her, but really, in fact, it's not. And also, Imam ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentions in Zad al-Ma'ad some narrations of Imam Ahmad which show that he was inclined to this position. And this is the position of some of the Salaf. We cannot deny that. Some of them did hold this position. But this third and final position I've mentioned just now, this is the position of a good number of companions, a good number of Tabi'een, a good number of the Salaf, and it is in fact the opinion of the majority, and this is the correct position bi'idhnillahi jalla wa ala. Why? We're going to tell you why now from a number of angles. Firstly, when you look at all the proofs concerning tama'im, concerning the impermissibility of tama'im amulets, do you find in any hadith, in any narration, where the Prophet made a distinction between tama'im which are from the Quran and dhikr and dua and those that are not? No. Whenever the Prophet mentioned tama'im, He mentioned it just in generally, without differentiating. So we go by that. We say, yep, there it is. The proofs are general. The Prophet didn't make a distinction. But when it comes to ruqya, the Prophet made a distinction. And this is when the Sahaba used to go to Prophet and to say to him that we used to do such and such a ruqya in the time of Jahiliyyah to protect us from poisonous stings and the ayn and so on and so forth. The Prophet used to say, "I'ridu alayya ruqakum, la ba'asa bi ruqa ma lam yakun fiya shirk." Present your ruqya to me. Tell me your ruqya. There's nothing wrong with ruqya as long as it doesn't have shirk. So the main thing is ruqya doesn't have shirk, it's allowed. But when it came to tama'im, no such proofs, hadith are found where a distinction was made between the two. So they are general. So we take them as they are. Okay, Jazakallah khair. One of the brothers has, naam. Okay, good. Mention that dua for if you are scared when you go to sleep. No. Okay, this is the first point. Yeah, there's several points we're going to refute this from. Second point is, second point I've already mentioned it to you, and that is that the Prophet ﷺ made a distinction between the rulings of ruqa and tama'im. And the Prophet ﷺ said about ruqya, "I'ridu alayya ruqakum la ba'sa bi ruqa ma lam yakun fi shirk." Yani present your ruqya to me, let me see it, let me hear it. There's no problem with the ruqya as long as there's no shirk in it. As for tama'im, the Prophet didn't make any distinction. Yes, he did not say, show me your tama'im. There's no problem with tama'im if it's dhikr of Allah or if it's a dua or if it's in the Quran. The Prophet did not say this. So this shows us that the prohibition for tama'im is general. That's the second point. I ended up mentioning both together. Yes, that's the second point. Now, this third point is very important. This third point is very important. Now, look, when you look at any dhikr and you look at any dua to bring you some good, not the dua itself, I mean, you understand what I mean, yes? So, dhikr or dua, any dhikr or dua authentic from the Prophet ﷺ, to bring you some good by the permission of Allah or to repel harm from you by the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal, yes? Do you ever find that it should be written or hung or attached? You will never find it. You will never find it. What do you find instead? The Prophet saying, whoever says this, whoever recites this, yani whoever recites the last two ayahs from Surah Al-Baqarah during the night, this will suffice him. Whoever says this, then this. Whoever recites this, then this. Do you ever find any dhikr or dua? The Prophet did not say whoever says this, or whoever recites this, or whoever reads this. Did the Prophet ever say whoever writes it, whoever hangs it, whoever attaches it? Never. You won't find that. Also, for example, any house in which Surah Al-Baqarah is recited, then the shayateen will not approach it. Recited. Now look, the Quran, everybody has a Quran in the house. It's got Surah Al-Baqarah in it. I can just buy Baqarah. I can go somewhere and buy just Baqarah and have it in my house or even attach it to my walls or hang it everywhere, yes? But is that sufficient? Obviously that is not sufficient, because the Prophet said recited. Recited. Although, what's easier? You tell me, what's easier? Is it easier to keep reciting? Or is it easier just to attach it somewhere and wear it? What's easier? And as we know, subhanAllah, sometimes we're going to sleep, we're very tired, And we cannot do all the adhkar and the du'as that we normally make. Like we cut them to half. We've had a long journey. We just do 2, 3 that we normally do 7, 8. Yes, on a good day, alhamdulillah, we'll do all of them. On a day we're very tired or whatever, we won't do all of them. But just imagine, why this headache then? Just khalas, just write it somewhere and wear it. Put it next to your bed. Job done. Isn't that easier? You won't forget. You won't become lazy. Yes, but that was not the case. And the Prophet ﷺ did not instruct us to do this. Yes. So what does that mean? That means these things should be recited and said and read. Yes, to attach it somewhere, exactly. To attach somewhere is easy, of course, yes. But despite that, there's no hadith in which Prophet instructs us to do so. The fourth angle to show that tama'im from the Quran, dhikr and dua are not allowed is that if you avoid these kind of tama'im, amulets, then you are implementing the well-known qa'idah or principle of the Sharia, which is saddu dhara'i, cutting the path off to evil or shirk or haram. Yes? Now, just imagine now this would open up the door, which you can never close. I mean, you're never going to know. How will you ever know the tamima that someone is wearing is from Quran, dhikr, dua, or it's not? Things will become mixed. There will be confusion. There will be chaos. And this will be a dhari'ah. This will be a way for people to start wearing tama'im which are haram and which there's a consensus that they are haram. Yani tama'im which are not from the Quran, dhikr and dua. There's no difference amongst the Salaf regarding the impermissibility of these. So things will become like this. And this is where the mushrikun, they will find a way to spread corruption and to start earning money and stealing money and robbing people, like it happens worldwide. Yes? But these people will come in and this will give them opportunity to spread tama'im shirkiyah. And how are you going to stop them? They can use an excuse. They can use excuse. Oh, tama'im from the Quran are allowed. How can you stop me? This is what I give people. And also, if you want to stop somebody, do inkar of the munkar. You want to advise someone about tama'im. Yes? Now, if there was that opinion that all tama'im are haram, you can easily go to the person with the wisdom. Of course, brothers, don't go around breaking things from people. Okay? Like, don't, if you see somebody, don't just go to him and grab the tamima and just snatch it off him. Okay? That's going to cause a bigger fitna. Use wisdom. Of course, if it's your family members who are under your authority, yes, then you can use your hand to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. But always refer these matters to people who are entrusted or who are responsible for these matters. Don't just go around on the streets in any way, and because that really, look, that is temporary. Like if you cut off something from someone, that's temporary. But what you want is you want to cut their heart off this amulet. Okay, you might cut it now. You'll go again and get another one. You might get 2 this time. Okay. What are you going to do? Nothing. Why? Because he still believes it's allowed. You have to show him with daleel, with rahmah, with mercy, with kindness, with wisdom, with the knowledge, with proof after proof. Sit him down. Talk to him. Tell him about who Allah is and Tawḥīd and Sunnah and Shirk, and tell him and explain to him how can you be attached to a thread. Subhanallah, a string, a thread, whatever it is. This string and thread said, look at him, look, I can cut this in front of you now. How can you be attached to this? How is this going to protect you? Look, I'm cutting it now. I'm cutting it. Is that going to protect you? Look, I blew it and it's flown away, and that's going to protect you. And he used to it with him proofs from the Quran, the Sunnah, and the Aql, and the intellect, and the Fitrah. Sit him down, detach, or if that's a word, detach his heart, or detach, sorry, detach his heart from this what he's wearing. Make him hate it. Okay, so the point is, I've gone off on a tangent here, but the point here is that it will make it difficult for you to inkar al-munkar, and you will feel uncomfortable doing inkar al-munkar. Because if all amulets were haram, you can straight away, immediately explain to the person it's haram. But then if there's this distinction, yes, and you go to this person and he says, oh, it's from the Quran. It's from the Quran. And in this way, evil is going to spread. Evil will spread, no doubt. Is it okay to listen to Surah Baqarah? Yes, of course. I mean, listening to the Quran, so listen to Surah Baqarah and the Quran in itself is worship. To listen to the Quran, listen to recitation of the Quran, this is worship. This is a very good deed. Why not? But does it take the place of reciting it? Allahu A'lam. I would have to look into that, what the scholars have said. I've read it, but nothing comes to mind at the moment. Naam. Okay, brothers and sisters, you understand so far? Another problem would be if you allow these amulets. If you allow these amulets, what would the problem be? The problem will be that ruqya, which is the sunnah, will be abandoned. Yes? So more and more people will start wearing these things, attaching them, hanging them, and that will make them leave that which is prescribed in the Sharia, that which is the sunnah, which is ruqya. So they will abandon ruqya and go to something which is not allowed. Okay. Another point is, dear brothers and sisters, that this position, the third position, that tama'im from the Quran, dhikr and dua are not allowed, this is what has been authentically narrated by from some of the Sahaba. The other two opinions have been attributed to them, but not authentically. So this is actually the position of the Sahaba, and we don't know with any authentic narration from any other Sahaba who oppose this position. Another reason is that this is the position of the majority of the tabi'een and the majority of the ahl al-ilm that came after them. Khair inshallah, brother Kevin, no problem. Barakallahu feek. Yes, please go ahead. Whatever you missed, inshallah, if you wish, you can catch up in the recording. Okay, and the last thing I want to mention, the last point the scholars have mentioned, that if you do not allow people to wear amulets from the Quran, Sunnah, Quran and dhikr and dua, then in fact you are honoring and respecting and protecting the speech of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and His beautiful names and attributes. Why? Yes, because let's say, for example, children are wearing these things. They will go to the bathroom. They don't care. Yes, or they will go to places which are not befitting. Maybe there is music, there is free mixing, there is swearing, and they're wearing something from the Quran or dhikr or dua. And this is in fact disrespectful. You're being disrespectful to the Quran, to the speech of Allah, to the names and attributes of Allah, to this dhikr, this dua. Yes, it's not befitting. It's not befitting. And perhaps some people, obviously, they go to even sleep with them. Yes. And when he is sleeping, this thing might be under him. The Quran, he's lying on top of it. Is this befitting? No? So that is another reason that these are not allowed. These are not allowed. And the last thing is that this is the position that is the safest. Let's say, for example, somebody holds the position that they're allowed. Another person holds a position they're not allowed and is haram. Okay, wouldn't it just to be on the safer side, leave it? Especially when the majority of the scholars from the time of the Sahaba till now, they say it's not allowed, it's haram, it's impermissible. What's the safest thing to do? Especially when it comes to your Aqīdah and Tawḥīd and your attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's the safest thing to do? Safest thing to do is leave it. Leave it. Okay? Because the last thing you want to be doing is making a mistake in Aqīdah and in Tawḥīd and in your tawakkul in Allah and in your attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all of these, that we say that these tama'im, now to finish off, they are not allowed. And that is a correct position. They are not allowed, whether you wear them, you hang them on children or your animals or your car, or you write MashaAllah, Tabarakallah on your car with the intention of protection from the evil eye, or you write something, or in your house you've got these fancy ayat and dhikr hanging everywhere. With this intention, it's not allowed. It's not allowed anyway, even for the sake of decoration, a'udhu billah. You can't find anything other than the Quran and the dhikr for decoration. It's not allowed. But especially with this intention, this haram, they come from at-tama'im al-muharrama. At-tama'im al-muharrama. Okay? Let's quickly move on. Inshallah, we'll finish in 10 minutes. So this was the definition that he mentioned, the author rahimahullah, of tama'im. We've just explained this definition because he has spoken about tama'im which are not from the Quran before, and this time we had to speak about these issues because the author mentioned that tama'im which are from the Quran, difference of opinion. So we explained the difference of opinions and what's the correct opinion and why not. Then he goes on to talk about ruqya. He gives the definition of ruqya. Now ruqya, the first lesson, this is the third lesson from this chapter. The first of the chapter, we spoke in great detail about ruqya. So we've already mentioned these things before, and so we're not going to repeat them, but I'm just going to quickly read the definition of the author again. Okay, now, قال rahimahullah, he rahimahullah says, وَرُقَّ هِيَ لَتُسَمَّ الْعَزَائِمِ. Ruqya, and they are the ones that are called al-azaim, incantations. Azaim is something which is recited and said. وَخَصَّ مِنْهَا الدَّلِيلُ مَا خَلَى مِنَ الشِّرْكِ. And proofs show that ruqa which does not have shirk is permissible. فَقَدْ رَخَّصَ فِي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ مِنَ الْعَيْنِ وَالْحُمَى. The Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم allowed ruqya for the evil eye and for al-huma, for poisonous stings and bites. Okay, and we have mentioned what this means before. Okay, we mentioned the hadith where the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "La ruqyata illa min aynin aw huma." There is no ruqya except from the evil eye and poisonous stings and bites. Now, the scholars have explained this. It doesn't mean that you cannot do ruqya for anything else. No. It means the most beneficial ruqya is the one that's done to protect you from the evil eye or from poisonous stings. But can you do ruqya for other things? You can do ruqya for other things. Prophet ﷺ did ruqya for other things. Ruqya was done to the Prophet ﷺ for other things. The Sahaba did ruqya for other things. Okay, and we have mentioned this before, so we're not going to repeat it. And we mentioned about ruqya and what conditions need to be there. 3 conditions need to be present for ruqya to be allowed. What they are. The ruqya mashru'a, ruqya mamnu'a. Why is it mamnu? When does it become mamnu? Major shirk, minor shirk. When does it become major shirk? When is minor shirk? Everything, alhamdulillah, we explained, so we're not going to do it again. Then the last thing that he gives the definition of is tiwala. And I told you tiwala, it is love magic, to do with love and love potions and love charms and love spells, and that's tiwala. So he gives an explanation of that. He says, shay'un yasna'unahu. It is something that they make. يزعمون أنه يحبب المرء إلى زوجها والرجل إلى امرأته. It's something they make and they believe that is something that makes a woman love her husband, put love between her and her husband, and something that makes a man love his wife. And he makes a woman love her husband, and something makes a man love his wife. And we mentioned what this is. And we mentioned that this is a form of shirk. It's actually a form of magic. This is magic. Tiwala is a form of magic. They call it atf. There's atf and sarf. Atf is to bring people together. Sarf is to separate people. This is shirk, which is, sihr, magic, which is atf. And magic is shirk. And inshallah, we're going to talk more about magic and this kind of magic of sarf and atf when we start talking about the chapters later on, inshallah, related to magic. But the point here is, you understand what it is. Then the Musannif rahimahullah, he says, وَرَوَى الْإِمَامْ أَحْمَدْ أَنْ رُوَيْفِ. The Imam Ahmad reports from Ruwayfi radiyallahu an, who said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to me, Ya Ruwayfi. The Messenger of Allah said to me, O Ruwayfi, لَعَلَّ الْحَيَاةَ سَتَطُولُ بِكَ. Perhaps you're going to have a long life. And in fact, he did have a long life. In fact, he did have a long life, radiyallahu ta'ala an. And he died in the year 56 after Hijrah, or some say 53 after Hijrah, the Prophet ﷺ. So he died, you can say good 40 odd years after the Prophet ﷺ. So he had a long life. And this is from the signs of the prophethood of the Prophet ﷺ. فَأَخْبِرِ النَّاسَ. So tell the people. Tell the people. So the Prophet ﷺ is advising him, ordering him, in fact. He's saying, maybe you're going to live long. So tell the people, warn the people, give them da'wah. Don't just leave them. Especially when you see things that which oppose the Aqīdah and the creed and Tawḥīd. Don't leave them. And this is what is wajib upon a da'i, upon a caller. He has to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. He has to teach the people. He has to warn them against evil. He has to do inkar al-munkar, amr bil ma'roof, enjoin the good. He has to do this. It's wajib upon him. That's why he said, Prophet said to him, فَأَخْبِرِ النَّاسِ. So tell the people, أَنَّ مَنْ أَكَدَ لِحْيَتَهُ. Whoever ties his beard, ties a knot in his beard, or تَقَلَّدَ وَتَرًا, or who wears a necklace made out of a bowstring, أَوْ اسْتَنْجَ بِرَجِيءِ دَابَّةٍ أَوْ عَظْمٍ, or he cleans himself after answering the call to nature, he cleans himself with animal dung, animal feces, yes, animal dung or animal bones. That whoever does these three things, فَإِنَّ مُحَمَّدًا صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is free from this individual. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is free from this individual, yes? So, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what's the first thing he mentioned? Man akada lihyatahu. Man akada lihyatahu. Whoever ties his beard. And he ties his beard, puts a knot in his beard, yes, or maybe twines, put plates, okay, makes plates in his beard, yes. Now, out of arrogance and pride. Yani, this is one interpretation of the scholars. Now, what does the Prophet mean here? Tying the beard. What's wrong with tying the beard? What do you mean tying the beard? How can the Prophet be free from you? Because when the Prophet says, I am free from you, this means this is a major sin. Any action which has a specific punishment attached to it, it's a major sin. So here the Prophet ﷺ, when he says, I am free from you, show these three things are major sins. The first is tying your beard or twining it or putting plates in your beard or putting knots in your beard. Takabburan, out of pride and arrogance. Why? Because this is what some of the people of Jahiliyyah used to do. The second explanation is that this actually is what men who are effeminate, this is what they do. Yani those men who have traits of women traits. So the scholars say that this is what people from Jahiliyyah who had such traits, this is what they used to do with their beards. And the third opinion, which actually goes in the line with the heading of this topic, is that the Ahlul Jahiliyyah, they used to do this to prevent the evil eye, to protect themselves from the evil eye. And that, of course, is where, or that's, of course, is why the author has mentioned this narration. If you're thinking, how is this narration connected to the chapter heading of amulets and ruqya and tama'im, then it's from this angle. That's one of the interpretations of tying your beard or doing whatever to it, was that they used to do this with the intention of protecting them from the evil eye. Then the Prophet mentioned the second is taqallada wataran. And this is also how this hadith ties into the chapter. Whoever wears a necklace made out of bowstring. And we mentioned that before. Yes, that's a tamima. That's a kind of tamima, which is haram, impermissible. It can be major shirk and it can be minor shirk. And we've spoken about that. And the third thing is al-istinja. Yani after answering the call to nature, after relieving yourself, it's haram, it's a major sin to use animal dung or animal bones to clean yourselves. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ has told us that that the bones, like the animals that we eat, their bones, if we mention the name of Allah upon them, if we say Bismillah when we slaughter the animal, or we say Bismillah when we eat, and there's another opinion, say Bismillah when we throw them away. Okay, I've heard of that opinion. The first two are definitely yani correct. The third one, I've heard some scholars mention it, okay, but I haven't looked into it. So the Prophet has informed us that when these bones of the animals that we eat, if Bismillah is said upon them, then they become full of meat for our brothers, our believing brothers from the jinn. And this becomes their food. And as for the dung, the animal dung, that is food for their animals. So this is why it's haram, it's impermissible to use that. Okay, so I'll repeat about Sa'id ibn Jubayr rahimahullah. So we got two small narrations left from the Tabi'een in this chapter. Just quickly mention them, it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. I just want to finish the chapter today. So the first one is Sa'id ibn Jubayr rahimahullah. Jazakumullah khair. Sa'id ibn Jubayr, as I mentioned, is from the greatest of the Tabi'een. He was very young when he died. He was less than under 50. And he was killed by Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. He was from the students of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma. He is from the greatest of the Imams of the Tabi'een, the students of the Sahaba. He said, Man qata'a tamimatan min insan, whosoever cuts a tamima, an amulet from a person, kana ka idri raqaba. It is as if he has freed a slave. Rawahu Waqi', that was reported by Waqi' ibn Jarrah. And Waqi' ibn Jarrah was from the shuyukh, from the teachers of Imam Ash-Shafi'i rahimahullah. He narrated this. So what this means, what he is saying rahimahullah here, is that when you cut a tamima from a person, then you are the cause now of his liberation and his freedom from the slavery of shirk, from slavery to the shaitan, and you have become a reason for his salvation and liberation from the punishment of Allah, from the anger of Allah, from the hellfire. So it is like you will get the reward of a person who frees a slave for the sake of Allah. As you know, freeing slaves is something which is highly recommended in Islam, and there's a lot of reward for it. And what is the reward for freeing a slave in Islam? If you free a slave for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, then Allah will free you from the hellfire. So now, if you go to a person, you cut off the tamima, you have set him free from shirk and slavery to the shaitan, and you have set him free from the hellfire, and you've saved him from the punishment of the hellfire to remain in there forever. Yes, so your reward will be like the reward of a person who has freed a slave for the sake of Allah. You have freed him. And when you free a slave for the sake of Allah, the reward for that is that Allah frees you from the hellfire. Now, so this is, although scholars have mentioned that this narration is not, there is some issues concerning its authenticity. Some of the scholars have mentioned that it's da'if, it's weak. And also on top of that, remember, this is the statement of a tabi'i, not a sahabi. Okay, and these kind of rulings that you get such and such a reward, such and such a reward, these really need to be mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah and the Sins of the Sahaba, Sins of Tabi'een, to talk about things in which there is no room for ijtihad. Then they are not really accepted. But perhaps he means what we have just mentioned. Okay, that basically you are setting this person free from slavery to shirk and slavery to shaitan and save from the hellfire, and so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save you from the hellfire. And the last narration, alhamdulillah, walahu an Ibrahim rahimahullah annahu qal, walahu, and it's also reported by Waqi' ibn al-Jarrah, yes, who was the Sheikh of Imam Shafi'i. He also reports from Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, another great Imam. He was, you can say, from the students of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. He was from the students of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. Yeah. So anyway, he's of course another great Imam, Ibrahim al-Nakha'i rahimahullah, from the Salaf. He said, كانوا يكرهون التمائم كلها من القرآن وغير القرآن. He said that they used to hate all tamaim, all amulets, whether they're from the Quran or not from the Quran. And whenever Ibrahim Nakha'i rahimahullah says, and they used to do this, and they used to do this, and they used to hate this, is referring to the companions of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala an. The ones that we have already mentioned, like Al-Qama, Al-Aswad, Abida As-Salmani, Abu Wa'il, Masruq, Rabi ibn Khuthaym, and other than them, that they used to hate all Tama'im. And here when we say hate, dear brothers and sisters, it's not karahatu tanzih. This is karahatu tahreem. Yani this is not makruh, like we say this is, or something is a makruh, meaning that if you do it, you will not be punished for it. And if you, if you do it, you will not be punished for it. And if you don't do it, you'll be rewarded. It's not that. Here, makruh meaning they used to hate it, and it's haram. Karahatu tahrim. It's impermissible. That's the opinion they used to have. They used to say they're all haram. All the tama'im are haram, impermissible. Okay? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, كُلُّ ذَلِكَ كَانَ سَيِّئُهُ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ مَكْرُوهًا. Look at that, makruh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Surah Al-Isra, dear brothers and sisters, He mentions a number of haram things. They are major sins. They are great sins. At the end of them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look what He says. Kullu dhalika. All that, aforementioned, all those things that we have mentioned. Kana sayyi'uhu. It's evil. Kana inda rabbika makruha. Its evil is ever in the sight of your Lord detested and hated and hateful. Does that mean Allah just hates it? Yani, does that mean these things are like you can do them, they're makruh in that sense? No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned major sins, which means they're haram. So whenever, and this is, you have to remember this terminology from the Salaf, when they used to mention makruh and yakrahun and karaha, their terminology used to be different. They would refer to something which is haram with this terminology. Khalas, inshallah, we concluded with this. Alhamdulillah, so we finished chapter 8, and bi'idhnillah, we will start next Sunday, chapter number 9, which is about Babu man tabarraka bi shajaratin or hajarin nahwihima. It's about tabarruk, seeking blessings through trees and stones and rocks and the likes. Bi'idhnillah. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam. If you have any questions or comments, then please go ahead. We can allocate maximum of 5 minutes for that. Yes, of course, because we follow the opinion that is impermissible. The correct opinion, dear brothers and sisters, is that tama'im from the Quran are impermissible. They are not allowed. For the reasons we mentioned, we've given, mashallah, 9-10 different angles, and very strong, they're very strong, that proof. So yes, but of course you use hikmah, you look at who you're talking to. Are you talking to elders, your relatives, your parents, your siblings, someone off the street, imam of a masjid, wife, children, neighbor? So everyone is a different way to deal with people, with hikmah, sound reasoning. You can use evidences which are intellectual. Of course, before that you use evidences which are from the Quran, the Sunnah, and the statements of the Salaf, and you explain to them, and you do your job. وَمَا عَلَى الرَّسُولِ إِلَّا الْبَلَاغِ. What is upon the messengers and those who follow them in da'wah is balagh, just convey. Your job is to convey, and you make dua for them. The guidance is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But don't give up on them. Every time you see them, advise them. Nuh alayhi salam, 950 years he was called to Tawḥīd. Yeah? Principle of shirk asghar is taking the sabab that Allah has not made a sabab. Can you clarify again the distinction between this and bid'ah? Yeah, as for the Surah Al-Baqarah being recited, being played, then I've got to look into that and I will get back to you next week, inshallah. 2-3 people have asked me about that now. So I will look into that and get back to you. But from what I remember, that's not permissible. I mean, they should be recited. But I will look into it, inshallah. Yes, so Muawi did ask me that question before, and whatever I know of that, I've already explained it. I have no, I don't have any further knowledge of that. Whatever I know, I have clarified that. Yes, and yes, of course, look, doing anything new in the religion, Muawiyah, is a bid'ah. Yes, but some bid'ahs can be shirk, and some bid'ahs are not shirk. Yes, yani if you think about it, every shirk, whether it's major or minor, is a bid'ah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't send any authority for it. It's something new in the religion. It wasn't taught in the Quran, not by the Prophet ﷺ, rather it's warned against. So if you do it, you're doing something new in the religion. But this bid'ah, it can be mukaffira, it can be kufr, take out the fold of Islam, it can be shirk akbar, shirk asghar. But not all bid'ahs like that. Some bid'ahs mufassika. Yes, like doing bid'ah, like dhikr bid'ah, dua bid'ah, mawlid. These don't take out the fold of Islam. So taking a sabab that Allah has not made a sabab, neither in the Sharia nor in His creation, that is shirk asghar. And that can also be a bid'ah from a different angle. That is something new in the religion. Now, this is what I understand, and Allah knows best. Okay. Yeah, but Surah Al-Baqarah, we look into it. You also look into it. Brothers and sisters, believe me, you're not going to be a student of knowledge if you are always spoon-fed. I appreciate you ask questions. That's good. You ask questions when you don't know. And if I don't know, I'm going to say I don't know, and I'm going to go look and I'm going to learn myself first and foremost, which is going to benefit me. And then I will benefit you, inshallah, with it. Okay, alhamdulillah, this is ta'awun al-birr wa taqwa. I have no objection to you asking questions because I learn a lot through your questions. I benefit a lot through your questions. Okay, so I urge you to ask questions. But also what we can do is we can do our own research. If you know Arabic, you can do your research. If you know English, we can do research and we can come back and we can share answers. We can discuss them. You know, this is mudhakara. This is revising knowledge, studying knowledge together, sharing benefits. This is khair upon khair. So inshallah, you also do a bit of homework and I will do a bit of homework and we'll come back next week and we'll discuss it and inshallah have a fruitful discussion. Okay, Ruqya practically, then I did explain that. Look, this lesson, subhanallah, this chapter 8 is ended up being over 3 lessons. Part 1, part 2, part 3. In part 1 and part 2, I believe is in part 1, I explained the different way the Prophet ﷺ did Ruqya. So please refer to part 1 of Kitab al-Tawhid, lesson 8, part 1. If you listen to that, in there you will find different ways of doing Ruqya. Okay? And that's a very important topic the sister is asking here. And inshallah, one day what I'm going to do is, I think very soon, I'll do a talk on that. A small reminder on just, you know, what kind of things we can say in Ruqya and how to do Ruqya. I think that will be very beneficial, inshallah. Is voting permissible in a kuffar country? Okay, the general ruling for voting is haram. Okay, voting is haram. It's not permissible. We're being involved in this democracy, which is kufr. Voting for these people that stand for kufr, abolishment of Sharia and abolishment of the laws of Allah, and implementing all kinds of filth and everything that opposes the Sharia is not permissible. Okay, this is a general ruling. Although in specific situations, certain ulama may have allowed it. But then again, every situation is different. And according to that situation, you asking a specific alim, he might give you a different answer. I'm just giving you the general ruling. And generally, this is the ruling, and it's better to stay away from it. If you want something specific, then you have to have a specific question, a specific scenario with the details, and present it to a scholar. Yep, minor is also a sabab to major. Yes, of course. Minor shirk leads to major shirk. Are they able to find any answer regarding voting in a kuffar country? Barakallahu feekum. Okay, I will look for it, inshallah. But what I know is not permissible. That's even worse. I mean, subhanallah. Voting in a Muslim country, yani, there might still be some excuse, maybe, you know, at least they're Muslims. And at least still some Sharia will be implemented. There's still a fear of Allah. There's still Quran and Sunnah. Kuffar, yani, for example, England. A'udhu billah, yani, this is. Look at the Muslims that have been elected there. May Allah guide them. Look at them. They utter statements of kufr, and they don't even know it's kufr that takes you out of the fold of Islam. I'm not saying the kuffar. I'm saying what they say is major kufr, some of these people, these Muslims in the parliament and who are involved in politics in the kuffar countries. And they don't realize, so perhaps they have excuse of ignorance, Allahu A'lam. Inshallah, we look into it. Recordings do not carry the ruling on the recite as it's not live. Okay, Jazakallah khair, Brother Shiraz. Okay, Barakallahu feekum. We look at these issues. I've noted them, but voting and ruqyah. Naam. Khair, inshallah. So we see you, inshallah, next week at the same time. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina wa habibina imamina wa sayyidina Muhammad ibn Abdullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Wa feekum barakallah wa jazakumullahu khairan.